Yep, that's our truck, getting pulled backwards up a hill by famous YouTuber Casey LaDelle and his track Jeep. You're probably wondering how we got in this situation. Stick around and let's find out.
This is Dylan and Tessa with Western Wild. For those of you that are new to the channel, we cover a lot of outdoorsy adventures, overlanding content, and gear reviews.
And today we're going to talk about how we managed to get this truck stuck so badly that we had to call Casey LaDelle for help. We'll talk through some of the bad decisions that we made that led up to getting stuck, along with the one good decision that we made that day, and the lessons that we pulled out of it. As you watch this video, if you see things that you think we could have done differently to get out of the situation, please let us know in the comments.
We weren't planning on filming when we originally got stuck. We were only going to be giving basic Instagram content, so you have to pardon some of the vertical videos that we have throughout this video.
Now for a little context, we live in a small mountain town that allows us to go for casual drives in the snow all the time. We usually cruise through the snow without a problem, and on the rare occasions that we have gotten stuck, we've been able to easily recover ourselves, perhaps resulting in a little overconfidence. With that in mind, we set out for what was supposed to be a short and pretty drive through the woods, before settling in the afternoon to watch NFL playoff games. Pretty soon we were making tracks in a couple inches of fresh snow and taking in epic mountain views. In hindsight, we should have grabbed some photos for Instagram here and turned around. But we still had time to kill before kickoff and a few more roads to explore. We took this photo less than a mile from where we eventually ended up getting stuck. Even at full tire pressure, our tracks were only a few inches deep. Tundra rides on 33-inch Goodyear Duratrack tires. They are 3-peak mountain snowflake rated and generally do very well in the snow as long as we have ground clearance. Made a quick attempt at getting up this hill, and then the snow went from not deep to really deep in a hurry.
Look up there, you were scraping.
Yeah, all the way along. Okay, recovery mode.
Yeah. As predicted, we're gonna need all 4 traction mats. This is a first. We're having to dig out our traction mat because it was completely and utterly buried. Hey, there it is.
There it is.
Under about half a foot of snow.
We tried again with all 4 boards. These could have been positioned a lot better, but the real problem was that our rear differential was hung up on a chunk of ice, while the tires were down in soft snow and had nothing to grip on. Around this point, a little highest van showed up. I asked the driver if he could give us a quick pull out, at which point he brought out a recovery strap and a climbing carabiner. Even though he insisted that it was a lot stronger than I might think, I still asked that he use one of our soft shackles. Needless to say, after 3 little pulls, the Tundra didn't budge and we moved on to plan C.
Okay, so we've tried all the things and now we're gonna use our winch for the first time. So, truck is here. We are gonna go to that tree right there with the winch. We have an interesting little angle to play with here, but that tree should at least be able to get us out of this. Winch coming. And I think we're gonna make ourselves a very hot beverage when we get home. What do you think? Hot beverage when we get home?
Maybe with a little alcohol in it?
Exactly. Adult hot beverage.
The plan was to double our winch pulling strength by using a recovery ring to do a double line pull. Unfortunately, at this point we found out just how short a 90-foot winch cable is, as it didn't reach all the way back to the truck. Eventually we made enough progress to re-rig off of another tree further down the road. This gave us a better angle to get where we wanted to be, and also extended the winch line out so that we'd get a little more power out of it. The hood is up in these shots because I had heard before that it is a good safety practice when winching in case the line breaks. Let us know what you think about that in the comments. It might be overkill. Looking back at this footage, it's really funny to see the Tundra in the foreground, up to its skid plate in deep snow, while the highest is not far away and sitting in only a couple inches. It's really a great example of how quickly snow conditions can change this time of year. Sometimes just a few feet can make a huge difference.
And we're free. Hallelujah. So, my darling husband, what went wrong after we got unstuck the first time?
Well, see, Tessa said that we should take what we had and turn around. I, on the other hand, was emboldened by our recent winch recovery, had more roads that I wanted to explore. It wasn't quite football kickoff yet, and I had this vision in my mind that taking the turn downhill would result in less snow.
So at this point we're rolling downhill and we made it about a quarter of a mile and the truck hits some deeper snow, and when the truck hits seriously deeper snow, like we're starting to plow into it a little bit, it kind of starts to do like a noise or motion, and at this point I said, Dylan, I think we should stop.
And I wanted to keep going.
And he was wrong.
So something that you have to know about snow in this part of Oregon in this time of year, Casey LaDelle talks about this a lot. It gets referred to as cascade concrete. And what that means is that you have these freeze-thaw cycles where it gets up into the 40s and 50s like a day like this. And then overnight it freezes again, but it only freezes the top layer of the snow. You get about this much that's nice and icy and crisp and can kind of support the weight of a vehicle, and then underneath that you have real soft mushy snow. As long as your vehicle is able to stay up on that icy crust, you're fine. But the moment that you break through that icy crust, your tires drop down into the soft snow that doesn't have anything to grip off of, and your components like your rear differential and your front skid plate get nicely hung up on this icy surface. And from that point on, your wheels just spin.
Because you have a really big truck that is very high-centered. With all of his knowledge of cascade concrete, he didn't quite read the snow the way he should have, and didn't listen to his wife, and went full send into some pretty deep snow. And we got very stuck.
Casey LaDelle's video offers the only footage that we have of the truck where it got stuck. If you haven't watched this video yet, we'll put a link in the comments and at the end of the video. Be sure to go over to his channel and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see here, we're stuck up to the bumper in nasty cascade concrete. So part of the reason that I thought it was okay for us to keep going is that I'd just been emboldened by our successful winch recovery. There were a lot of trees where we were headed, and I figured that we could pretty much pull ourselves out of anything. Now, we actually did this a little bit. We got the winch out, hooked up to 2 or 3 different trees, but we were only pulling ourselves about 10 feet at a time before we had to get out, unrig, move to the next tree. We were making slow progress forward, but had maybe a mile or 2 of similar deep, nasty snow ahead of us that we would have had to continue to winch through. And time was rapidly running out.
So when Dylan said time was running out, what he means is that we were out on the coldest day of the year. We had a high of 12 degrees, and we had really only been planning on going for a short little snow drive to get some mountain views and some sun before the football games came on. So when we got stuck, it was, for the second time, it was around 1 o'clock and 12 degrees. It was only going to get colder that day. It was actually going to get down to about -15 that night. So we didn't have any of our usual stuff that we would have for camping. We didn't bring lunch. We didn't bring extra layers. We didn't bring extra water. We didn't bring any of those things. So in looking at our timeline, we were about 8 miles deep into the woods, which as a couple were pretty experienced hikers, and we knew we could very easily hike out of it, especially because that's 8 miles downhill at that point, which would be doable and would get us back to our house well before sunset, and we could get the car out the next day. We also could have kept going with trying to recover the truck on our own. We had the tools that we needed for the most part, but we would have been putting ourselves in a situation where if we worked until, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's getting close to 0 degrees at that point, and then you're looking at hiking out in a very, very cold situation that could become more of a search and rescue mission or a life-threatening situation. So our goal as a couple, whenever we are out and about, is safety first in that sense of we don't put ourselves in spots where one or the other person or both of us could get really injured or hurt or put our lives at risk. So with all that in mind, we made the decision to hike our butts back up the hill we had just driven down. Thankfully, we weren't so deep in the woods that cell reception was really hard to find. So after about half a mile of hiking, we got a few bars, and the first 3 calls that we made were to a neighbor to come and pick us up, to Casey LaDelle to come bail our truck out, and to family just to update them on what our location was and what we were doing, since we're going to be out in the woods for a lot longer than we anticipated.
Less than 2 hours after getting stuck, Casey showed up with Ben from 406 Garage and the Track Jeep to get us out. I had the opportunity to work with these guys on a recovery last year, and they're both super cool dudes. If you haven't watched this video yet, it's a fun one, and I'll link it at the end. Getting to ride in the back of the Track Jeep was a highlight in an otherwise bad day. Loud and bumpy, but a ton of fun. Now for the actual recovery. The Yankum rope put some serious work in that day, dragging our nearly 7,000-pound truck through heavy snow. This is an awesome tool to have in your recovery kit, and you should totally buy one through Casey LaDelle's affiliate link that we've included in the comments. Yankum also sells winch line extensions and other recovery components that we could have used to get the truck turned around that day.
Directly. Well, there we go. Off and running. All right, so Casey was able to get us out, thankfully, and now we're heading home. A lot of lessons learned today, which I think we'll probably do a little recap on those things when we get home. But if you don't already follow Casey LaDelle, we'll put his channel in the comments below. And yeah, just definitely give him a follow. He's an awesome resource to people around here, and his channel is really fun to watch. So thanks for getting us out, Casey.